buying your first investment property is going to scare the bejesus out of you. At some points, you're going to be over the moon, stoked. Other times, you're going to be terrified. So today, we're going to talk about the emotional roller coaster and all of the emotions you're going to go through when you buy an investment property. Because, look, let's face it, although we always say focus on the figures, the feelings, they always come into it too. In the first stage, you're going to be pumped up with anticipation, you're going to be excited. And this is when you're either combing through online listings, you're on TradeMe, you're on realestate.co.nz, looking for that perfect investment property, maybe even going through some open homes too. Or if you're working with a property investment company, you're waiting for your financial advisor to show you some properties. At this stage, you're pumped up. You're imagining yourself owning all of these investment properties and growing a portfolio, and that's the fun part. But next is where the wave of anxiety comes in. Your next step is to make an offer and sign a contract once you've found the property that you think, hey, look, this could be a good investment. And that is where the anxiety starts to kick in. You're going to be thinking, am I offering too much? Am I paying too little? Am I going to actually get this investment property? And your stomach starts to churn as you wait for the seller to come back to you. And you're either going to feel completely elated, you're going to be happy, or maybe even disappointed, depending on whether they accept, decline, or counter your offer. Now, if you're working with a property investment company, the properties are generally pre-negotiated. They come with a fixed price. So you sign a conditional contract that you can cancel if you don't like it after a certain number of days. But even then, you are going to be nervous because you're about to sign a contract to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy an investment property. And I remember purchasing my first property. And I probably spent 10 minutes going through it, and then I was given an iPhone to sign the contract on with my finger and scribble my signature. And I was freaking out. This was my first property, and I was being asked to sign a contract after only looking at it not that long ago. And even though I knew I could cancel it within 10 days if it wasn't the right property, I was still freaking out. Now, that's actually a normal part of the process. And once you sign that contract, that feeling is going to go away. You're going to start to be buzzing again because you're now thinking about growing your property portfolio. Now, once your offer gets accepted, that's where the exhilaration, it quickly can turn into this feeling of being overwhelmed. Because after you sign the contract and the developer or the person selling the property countersigns, the deal is live. That's where you go through due diligence and you generally have 10 days to say, yep, it's the right property for me, or actually I'm going to pass on this one. But all of a sudden, your lawyer, your mortgage advisor, your property manager, your accountant, they all want a piece of you, and there's a lot to do in a very short space of time. You've got to get the bank to say yes. You've got to sort the contract, get a building inspection, decide whether you want to buy it at a trust look-through company, maybe just in your own name. And through all of this, there are going to be times where you think, there's so many people talking to me, I don't know what to do. Now, the best way to manage these emotions is to acknowledge them and say, hey, look, this is a normal part of the process. And if you're watching this video, you are going to be prepared for these emotions because you know what to expect. Now, one of my other top tips is to put a label on what you're feeling. Say, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling like there is a lot to do. As soon as you put a label on it, it helps you manage it. And one of the ones we like to put a label on is the Sunday Scaries. Here at Opus Partners, we work with over 50 couples a week to help them become more successful property investors. And what we've learned through that process is most of them get worried about their investment on Sundays. And the reason is they get excited over the weekend, they're telling their friends about their potential investment property, and then their friends and family tell them why they shouldn't invest. On top of that, you've got 2 days by yourself on Saturday and Sunday where you might not feel as comfortable calling your mortgage advisor, your lawyer, your financial advisor, or even your real estate agent. And the thing we've got to remember when getting advice from family and friends is that they are all in different financial situations. And while their advice will always be very well-meaning, it's often based on what would be best for them, based on the situation they are going through, the advice that they would like to hear at that time, or it's advice based on their own experience. So it's the advice that suits them rather than the advice that's best going to suit you. Now, when you get to Monday, you get access to that support network again. And even still, you might be thinking, well, maybe property investment isn't for me. Well, in those times, it's really important to turn on your logical brain and follow these steps. The first thing you can do to handle this emotional roller coaster is remember why you're investing in property in the first place. Most often that's to build a passive income, maybe prepare for retirement, even grow your wealth so you've got more options in the future. And if you're working with a property investment company like Opus Partners, though there are lots of other property investment companies too, you should have a written down plan with your goals. Now, when you get the Sunday Scaries, that's time to reread that plan and remember why you want to invest in the first place. But sometimes those emotions, they can be really useful too because they might surface questions that are quite legitimate, like what happens if my property doesn't go up in value? What happens if I can't find a good tenant? Is this property going to blow over next time we get an extreme weather event? Well, during these times, you need to write all of those questions down on your phone or on a piece of paper. You need to get them out of your head so you can stop thinking about them over and over again and stop ruminating about them. Then you take those list of questions, you talk to your real estate agent, you talk to your financial advisor about what happens in those situations. And if you do this, that will help you address all of your fears, your worries, your concerns, and your questions. And if you want to learn about what to do in some of those situations, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel because we release new videos every Monday and Wednesday. As due diligence wraps up, the pieces all start to fall into place and we're coming to the end of that emotional roller coaster. And this is where you're going to feel one of two things. You're either going to be elated on top of the world because the bank's given you the thumbs up and your lawyer says you're good to go. But sometimes there can also be an element of dissatisfaction if things aren't going quite as you'd expected. Maybe it's taking longer for the bank to give you that thumbs up. Maybe your lawyer has asked for a longer sunset clause from the seller's lawyer and they said no. Well, at that point, you either need to say, it's still a good deal, I'm comfortable with the risk, all investments come with risk, or decide that, hey, look, it's not the right deal for me. Now, as you get closer to your final decision about whether you go unconditional and commit to the investment or not, or deciding it's not the right property, that is the point where the jitters become real because you are about to commit to a multi-$100,000 investment and you're going to be asking yourself, am I making the right decision? What if there are hidden issues? And it's almost the climax of this emotional roller coaster. At this point, most investors look at all of those questions, all of those worries, all of the concerns and say, you know what? There's always going to be some risk. Let's go ahead. Or, you know what, we're going to leave it. Now, as soon as you make that decision, it's going to get a sense of relief. You're going to feel a sense of relief. And if you decide to go ahead with the investment, you'll often feel this sense of pride because you've committed to this journey and growing your wealth for the future. But the emotional roller coaster doesn't end there. As you continue to own the property market is going to go up, and when the value of your property goes up, you're going to think, I am a genius. And then when the property prices and property values eventually come down, you're going to think, I am an idiot. However, the key point is to trust the process and hold on for the long term because you're making a long-term investment. And if you want a helping hand to guide you along the journey as you go on this roller coaster, check out our website, opuspartners.co.nz. Our financial advisors help regular Kiwis like you grow their wealth through new build investment properties.